This flower's evolved to trap insects, not to eat them, but to use them as pollinators. You can just make out some flies here in the tube of these two flowers. They're called birthworts. Birthworts because they have the shape, seemingly, of a fetus, and around the world they've been used to aid childbirth. They are found mostly in the warm temperate areas of the world, all the way down to the tropics, and there's 500 different types of them. This one has the largest flowers of any of the hardy ones, and it comes from the mountains of northeast India all the way through to those in China, in Yunnan province. The flowers have the colour and the smell of rotting flesh. The flies are drawn to the edge of the tube, which is perilously slippery for them. They try to get out, but keep meeting that slippery tube. Once inside, the flower douses them with pollen. The flies appear to be smothering themselves with some substance that this flower's giving them. Indeed, when we opened the flower up, there was a sweet smell to that part of the tube. So I've cut off one of these birthwort flowers, and I'm going to open it up with some scissors just to see what's in there. There's one fly, 2, 3, 4 very different looking fly there. Oh my gosh, look at them. Ha! So this is just full of flies, but most of them have died down there. They haven't been able to get out. Some are still alive. I mean, this is extraordinary. There must be 50 flies there. All of them gone to their death. Now, of course, this is a Chinese or Nepalese plant in Wales, so the flies aren't evolved for this and haven't been able to get out. And we don't know how they get out of here, because this bit's the slippery bit, this neck, and there's no hairs to stop them getting out, which is what is commonly thought. It just is slippery. Now, to let those flies out, that slipperiness must disappear somehow. In this vine, it's not clear how the flies are released. Most of the work that's been done by scientists has been on the European species that have a lot of thin, very small flowers, and the tube is thin enough to have hairs, downward pointing hairs, that allow the fly to come in, and when the fly tries to get out, they have an articulation pivot that mean the hairs cross-link together and block the fly from getting out. When these flies are due to be released by the flower, these hairs simply wither, and then the flies can find their way out of that thin tube. There's only one known large-tubed Aristolochia that has hairs, one called Aristolochia gigantea. It's slightly different because it has a lemon smell to it, but all the other large-tubed ones seem to lack hairs, So how these flies are released after the male stage is still enshrined in mystery. The male and female parts of the flower are fused together in a structure known as the gynostegium at the top of the trap there. The male parts are on the side of that structure, and they can be seen as these yellow slits or strips. The female part is on the top. With flies crawling everywhere within the trap, the flower runs the chance of self-pollination, which is akin to inbreeding and always disadvantageous. So this flower has the trick of separating the male and female phases of the flower at different times. First, the female parts of the stigmas become receptive, and then they shrivel down, and then the male anthers burst out with pollen and douse all the flies in pollen, ready for their future escape. In the wild in China and Myanmar, the species that are laying their eggs on Griffithii are Troides, which is the big black and yellow birdwing, Pachyopter, it's a smaller black and red one with long tails, and the stunning and superb Butanitis species, the Bhutan glories, including the very rare mystical blue Bhutan glory. Griffith's birthwort is found in the remote areas of southwest China, just north of the Myanmar border. It was collected by the late Michael Wickington, who had a nursery in Scotland, and he did an expedition with Kew and Kunming Institute of Botany, and he found the fruits of this vine, the parents of the one we have in the upper Dulong Valley. Really, on the penultimate day, the furthest reaches of their expedition, they found that at 2,600 meters altitude, and that's why it's hardy in Britain. In terms of horticulture for this species, I start them off away from slugs and snails. I keep them in the shade till they're about 1.5 meters, 2 meters high. Then I plant them out, also in the shade. It might well be that this species later on is a canopy giant, but its early life is best protected from the harsh sun.